A man stands at the bow of a Roman merchant vessel, somewhere off the coast of Sicily. He is experienced, sober, well paid. And then he throws himself into the sea. His crewmates watch, paralyzed, because 3 of them are about to do the exact same thing. It is 70 BCE, and nobody can explain what they saw. The Mediterranean world of the ancient and classical periods was not a world of superstition in the way we condescendingly imagine. These were men who ran sophisticated trade empires, calculated celestial navigation, built ships of breathtaking engineering. A Roman merchant captain in the 1st century BCE managed payroll, cargo insurance, port negotiations, and multi-stop itineraries across thousands of miles of open water. He was, by every measure, a rational professional. So when men like him started throwing themselves overboard, not in storms, not during attack,
but in calm water, under blue skies, without warning, the ancient world needed an answer. And the answer it reached for was the Sirens. Here's what most people think they know about Sirens. Beautiful women, half bird, sometimes half fish in later retellings. They sing. Sailors die. Homer put them in the Odyssey. Odysseus tied himself to the mast. End of story. A tidy myth. A metaphor, perhaps, for temptation. We teach it in literature classes as allegory, and move on. But here's the thing. Ancient Greeks and Romans did not treat siren encounters as allegory. They treated them as incident reports. Pausanias, the 2nd century Greek geographer who was essentially an ancient travel journalist, documented specific coastal locations where siren activity was believed to occur, complete with local testimony, physical landmarks, and the names of victims. Pliny the Elder cataloged sirens alongside other documented natural phenomena, not in a section on mythology, but in his encyclopedic natural history, alongside descriptions of sea creatures he had personally verified. Strabo, one of the most rigorous geographers of the ancient world, placed siren territory at the Cyrenusian Islands, near the Gulf of Naples, with geographic specificity. These weren't poets. These were men who prided themselves on evidence. And the incidents kept happening. Sailors who had safely navigated those waters a dozen times would, on a particular passage, suddenly abandon their posts. Some threw themselves overboard. Some steered their ships directly onto rocks that they could see clearly. Some were found wandering the shoreline in a fugue state, unable to account for hours of lost time. Their crewmates, the survivors, would report hearing something not always music. Sometimes a hum. Sometimes a pressure behind the eyes.
Sometimes nothing at all. Just a compulsion in their companion that no one could explain and no one could stop. The ancient world attributed this to supernatural singing. Modern researchers have a different explanation, and it is somehow more disturbing. Along specific stretches of the Mediterranean coastline, particularly around volcanic zones, including the area near the Cyrenusian Islands, the geology produces something called infrasound, low-frequency acoustic waves below the threshold of human hearing, generated by geological activity, specific wind patterns moving through coastal rock formations, and the particular resonance of certain sea caves. You cannot hear infrasound, but your body responds to it. Documented effects of infrasound exposure include extreme disorientation, sudden inexplicable terror, visual hallucinations, a sensation of invisible presence, feelings of profound unreality, and in sustained exposure, the complete collapse of rational decision-making. Infrasound at certain frequencies causes the human eyeball to vibrate at its own resonant frequency, producing visual distortion, ghostly shapes at the periphery of vision. Shapes that might, to a mind already destabilized by geological acoustic waves, resolve into figures, beautiful, beckoning figures. The rocks that killed sailors were real. The compulsion was neurological. The sirens were, in the most literal possible sense, a creation of the landscape. But here's what they don't tell you in the myth, and what makes this story something other than an ancient curiosity. Follow the money. The waters around the Cyrenusian Islands, the Strait of Messina, and the coastal zones most associated with siren mythology were not just geologically active. They were among the most
commercially critical shipping lanes in the entire ancient Mediterranean economy. The Strait of Messina alone was the primary corridor between the eastern and western Mediterranean. Grain from Egypt, tin from Britain, silk precursors from the east, all funneled through these waters. Losing a ship in those straits didn't just mean lost cargo. It meant the interruption of supply chains that fed cities of hundreds of thousands of people. And here's the mechanism of profit: salvage rights. Under ancient maritime law, a ship that went aground or was abandoned could be legally claimed by whoever reached it first. The coastal communities near the most dangerous siren zones, the areas of strongest infrasound activity, built entire local economies around recovered cargo. Archaeological evidence from these sites shows warehousing infrastructure inconsistent with their size as fishing communities. Someone was moving a great deal of recovered goods. The mythology of the Sirens, carefully tended by local populations, ensured that sailors approached these coasts with a specific kind of fear, the paralytic, irrational fear of supernatural attack, rather than the practical, navigable fear of a known geographic hazard, a hazard that could have been charted, marked, and avoided. The legend was the product. The deaths were the supply chain. This isn't just history. Think about what it means that the most sophisticated maritime civilization in the ancient world, people who calculated longitude, who designed multi-decked warships, who ensured cargo, could be systematically exploited through a combination of genuine neurological phenomenon and carefully maintained mythology, and never fully understand what was happening to them. We think we've evolved past this. We haven't. Every industry built around manufactured fear, every financial product engineered to be too complex to understand, every health panic that happens to...
A specific remedy. Every moral panic that conveniently justifies the expansion of surveillance infrastructure is running the same playbook. Create or amplify an experience your audience cannot rationally explain. Provide the explanation that serves your interests. Profit from the wreckage. The Sirens didn't have beautiful voices. They had a geological accident and a community smart enough to monetize the confusion it caused. The sailors who died weren't weak or foolish. They were rational people confronting something that defeated rational response, and the system around them was designed specifically to ensure they never found a better answer. The real monster in this story was never in the water. So here's the question that should keep you up tonight. What are the Sirens in your world right now? What unexplained compulsion? What irrational fear? What story you've been handed about why certain things are dangerous or forbidden is actually just someone else's salvage operation? Who profits when you don't navigate those waters? Drop your answer below. I want to know what you think we're not being told. And if you want more history that doesn't flinch from the truth behind the myth, you know what to do.